Hi, everybody. I'm John Asack, as usual. But this is Shawn McCraney, and I am completely fascinated. And what an amazing beard, if I can say so. Just absolutely Old Testament beard. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
For some time, those who know me know that I've been studying what I call human predators. And because I'm not concerned to diagnose anybody particularly, I'm just concerned that there are people out there who are trying to eat us. And Shawn is a remarkably unusual man. He is somebody who is, I believe, was diagnosed at some point as a sociopath, and is what I would probably call a redeemed sociopath. I think you probably like that word, yeah?
I love
Um,
that.
yeah. So, do you think this is a condition you were born with, or do you think it's something that came about by, from what I hear about your mother, your mother being a significantly difficult human being?
Yeah, I think it was a combination, in my estimation, John, of nature and nurture.
Mm.
Kind of like everything, you have the propensity, but the environment will either enhance or detract those propensities. So I
Yes.
think we kind of had a perfect storm.
Yeah. So you were born in the as a member of the Latter Day Saints, the Mormon congregation. Um,
Yes.
I you were introduced to me by our friend Matt Bywater, and he's done a couple of phenomenal interviews with you, uh, almost forensic interviews. There's so much detail there, and for me, it's fascinating because if um, predators cannot be redeemed, then we need to lock you all up. There's no
Yeah.
other choice, and we need to stop voting for people who are predators. Whole world is run by. Um, so it's. I'm going to jump right in, and we'll perhaps come back in some more detail later when we've got a bit more time. But the, your childhood, looking at Matt's interview with you, you were somebody who wanted to have attention and wanted to control other people, and you didn't really have empathy, which I guess would be the underlying condition that you didn't feel for other people, and you thought your presumption would be that they didn't feel either to some extent.
To some extent, yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, and you, I'm doing all the talking. This is not good. I too often do. Um, so you talked about something that interested me is that the idea of the sociopath, whatever term you want to use, is it somebody who has no conscience. And there was something that conflicted with that in your interview with Matt, which was that you said that you felt guilty at breaking the rules in the LDS, particularly about your sexual propensities.
Hmm.
And if you felt that there was some rule coming down that you were breaking, tell me about that. Tell me about the guilt you felt, but the lack of guilt that you also felt about, hurting other people or doing harm.
John, I think looking back that it is was the focus on sexual sin
Mm,
that I absorbed over time that led to my intellectually believing I was in trouble. I should feel shame. I should feel guilt before God. At the same time, I didn't get the same message from the LDS that I should be truly kind to another individual.
mm,
That was all predicated on conditioning of, are they worthy of my kindness, and should they benefit from goodness? And it wasn't an unconditional thing. So, but the sex thing in my mind as a younger man was, it just became something I realized I was inordinately attracted to, but I shouldn't be. And that's all I can really say as to why I felt bad about it,
mm.
because I thought I was doing something that this God, wherever he is not liking. That's the only thing that made me think He was angry with me. I thought that my violent nature was acceptable to him somehow.
Mm. And tell us, about some of the things that you did that you're not so happy about now, but
Oh, John, it was a daily thing. We're not talking about certain events. Daily physical threats, verbal threats, anger, outlashes, breaking things, um, intimidating people, phone calls, visits to homes, just endless altercations throughout my life,
mm.
young life. Yeah.
And
But I
how
was,
old? Go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I was always cognizant of the law, though. So I was kind of a smart attacker. I would really calculate. Sometimes I wouldn't be, but sometimes I would calculate out my vengeance so I couldn't get caught. So I was kind of smart in how to prey upon people. And
Mm.
if I ever got into a public confrontation, I made sure that nobody was there to witness me being the one who started it.
Mm. How
Yeah.
interesting. And you
Yeah.
see, I think there are tremendous lessons. I firstly, I think that we should not punish people for being predators. I don't think that helps at all. And I think that the current penal system, the idea that people in prison deserve everything they get and we should be horrible, it
Right.
that's really going the wrong way. But
Yeah.
we do need to understand how to recognize predators. And um, there was something you said to Matt where as a quite young child, you recognized that you needed to charm people.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that and how you would approach people, because you are approaching people as prey. You're approaching them that you want to get a result out of your communication with them. So
Right.
how did you build up your charm and how would you approach people?
I learned quickly people love smiles. They love their name. They love to be heard. They love to be felt. They love to feel like they're the only person in the world. I mean, it's really ego. That as
Mm,
long as you can reach their ego in one way or another, you'll be liked by them, and therefore you'll be welcomed in to their world a little bit more.
yeah.
And then you can take advantage of that because they've trusted you and all it comes down to really is stroking their ego in the right way that they're not aware it's being stroked and they're not aware that they're letting up their defenses.
Mm. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly the way that most authoritarian cult groups approach people. What the Moon is called love bombing, where
Yeah.
where you flatter somebody, and it amazes me that school kids are not taught about this. That when somebody you've never met is
Yeah.
suddenly your best friend,
Yeah.
they're probably selling you something along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Definitely.
it also seems to me that such groups tend to groom people to imitate sociopathic behavior, so they're not genuine. When they so when you join a group, you're told, we all love you and it's tremendous and what have you. But as soon as you criticize the group, nobody loves you anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, we're not going to spend a long time with this. This is just a teaser, because I do want to speak with you in depth, because you are a pretty rare phenomenon. Of course, we have James Fallon, the pro-social sociopath, who's fascinating. But and Emmy Thomas, who's gone from writing a book about being a sociopath to then saying, "Oh, I'm not like that anymore."
Oh,
But there is a difference. Have you been able to learn empathy, or is it still something that you have to think about your transactions with other people?
probably in the high 90s. I still have to think about it.
Mm,
It's not it's kind of a paradox, John, because I naturally do like engaging with people because I feel like I am being received in love that for some reason I can't get in any other way unless I am unconditionally accepted.
mm,
But at the same time, I am still a predator. And if
mm,
somebody crosses me, my initial reaction is not to love them.
mm,
My initial reaction is to cause them pain.
mm,
And I have that to this very moment right now.
mm,
But what my experience has allowed me to do is to make the cognitive choice of to react better than what I am naturally inclined to do.
mm,
And that's where this miraculous change, I think, has come in, at least in my case. It
mm,
is it has given me the tool to say there's somebody I can please who's bigger and better than me if I follow their way, and that's God. And
yep,
so he wants me to love, so I will choose to love out of respect for him.
mm.
And that's the process that happens really quickly.
And is that out of a fear of hell, or is it out of a feeling
No,
of acceptance? Good. Yeah.
no, there's no hell on this. There's no a loss of reward. And that's really important. I'm really glad you bring that up because there's none of that. That was the case when I was Mormon, and the fear of hell was never enough to get me to do it their way.
Mm,
But it's the love I felt that he has given us as his creations that humbles me and makes me want to be appreciative for
mm,
what I think he has done.
mm.
And so it takes me out of my own world and it lets me give honor and respect to something I see as more powerful than I am.
Mm. Okay. Eric Fromm, who gave us the first definition of the malignant narcissist, puts forward the idea that narcissism as a condition, which we could say is an aspect of sociopathy, is not self-love. It is the inability to love. It's not feeling love. And what you say about being accepted and appreciated by others is what narcissists seek to have from others. So
Yeah.
what I want to know is, do you have loving relationships with other people?
Um, I think they are loving in the sense of being the highest form of love, which is sacrificial, and it is not about um, yourself. I have those with people. I can give that to people, and I can take that from people, but I don't really have a romantic kind of love for anything substantive. I don't have a philos kind of love that
Mm,
isn't that's substantive with others.
mm,
I suspect everybody and don't trust anything. So it's hard for real love to exist if you have that mindset.
mm.
So it's more of a choice for me, constantly a choice to have
Yeah.
yeah, loving relationships.
And I mean, quite evidently, your own transformation came about on the road to Damascus. You
Yes.
know, and so tell me about that. Tell us about that. What happened to you that changed your mind? How old were you? Where did it happen? And what happened?
I was Huntington Beach, California, and I was living there with my wife and kids, and I was going to pick up my children at a gymnastics practice. But the preface to all that, that's what Matt covered, is just a 36 years of angst and
Mm,
anger and just really not feeling like I could ever figure it out.
mm,
And that drove me to so many things to try to seek. Well, that roadside experience, that Damascus experience was the culmination of all of those years coming into my mind into like this touch point in time where I heard a message that made sense to my mind. You cannot fix yourself. Can I swear? Because I swear when
yeah,
I
go ahead
like
and
to.
swear. Yeah, enjoy
Okay,
yourself.
you can't fix yourself, uh, but this guy has fixed you because you can't, and there's nothing you can do to make him love you more. To make you can be a murderer, you can be a good guy. He's not gonna love you more Shawn. He loved you so much. He did for you what you cannot do.
Mm.
Now believe on him.
Mm.
That message gave me the tools to start to change.
Mm.
And it was that message that I got over the radio that day when I heard and I pulled over and I had a metaphysical experience within that has never left me and been with me since 1997.
Okay, which is a fair amount of time, really.
Yeah.
And how is your relationship with your children? You mentioned your children.
It's lovely because I've always been a good dad, and a dad I've been able to do, and maybe that removes me somewhat from being a pure sociopath or something, because I was able to see the import of my actions in their life, and I was able to sacrifice some things for them. I still, some things no. In fact, I would fight people in front of them.
Mm.
So it wasn't enough to be really good, but it was enough to say I can love somebody selflessly.
Mm.
These three kids, and that's paid off.
That's great. I mean, and I feel that I mean, Robert Hare in constructing his model of the psychopath, and we perhaps stop and explain that a little bit. There's a thing called the Hare Psychopathy Checklist revised,
Yeah. Oh,
and revised, and if you score from 0 to 4 on it, then you're normal, whatever that might be. If you score from 4 to 30, in his terms, you're a sociopath, and he's redefined the word to do this. And if you score from, I think, 30 to, I think the top is 40, then you're a psychopath.
oh.
And I tend to think that in and of itself says there's a spectrum of behavior here. And
Definitely.
in looking at, the peak of the criminal psychopath is the serial killer. People who can only get their enjoyment out of life by torturing other people and experiencing their trauma. To what extent did you rejoice in the hurt of other people?
Greatly.
Mm.
And there's still that part of me that still does. I couldn't be a serial killer because I don't think I get any thrill out of that. What I get thrill in is revenge.
Mm.
It's if someone has tried to slight me in any way purposefully, that's when I come alive and I really want them to feel my revenge.
Mm.
And that's what I have to fight daily in traffic, in conversation, in life, because people are people and they may not even mean bad,
Mm.
but my stupid mind interprets their words and looks and behaviors, because I'm kind of a paranoid person, as being, a little bit snide, a little bit snarky, a little bit diminutive of
Mm.
me and my person. And when you do that, that's when I want to show them, okay, you think you can look down on me? I'm going to show you what that means.
Mm.
And really that's from my mind to your ear how it works in this brain of mine still.
Mm.
I just don't act on it the same.
Yeah, which is really quite remarkable. One of the things, I think it was Kent Keel, who of course was Hare's student and did, I think, 500 fMRIs on imprisoned psychopaths, and because outside of prison, no psychopath was going to volunteer to have an fMRI. And one of the people he interviewed said, he got into a barroom fight, and he said, "Well, look, if the guy had looked at you the way he looked at me, you'd have killed him too." And of course, for most of us, that isn't true.
Yeah.
But that thought that there's a mindset, how much do you think this is down to your neurochemistry? How much do you think that, your dopamine responses, for example, your anticipation of things is caught up in this? Because you've obviously mastered it. You've 26 years or something that you've got past this, but you're still working with it every day, which is incredibly impressive, I think. To what extent do you think your neurochemistry would be different from another person?
I don't think my neurochemistry is the the same as anybody who's balanced and normal.
Mm.
I really live in an alternative universe in my own head of neurochemistry.
Mm.
I see and react to things in a way that is very different. And I know it. My children know it. I perceive life differently, so I perceive people differently.
Mm.
And I would love to be normal and to be able to engage with people and really enjoy things like parties and birthdays and things, but I do not. I
Mm.
see them as confrontational to my psyche and therefore a need for me to correct things or beat things into submission. It's a
Mm.
terrible state of mind. But John, I have discovered, at least in my case, ego is central to my problem
Yes.
because everything is ego.
Mm.
For me, you are giving an opinion I don't agree with. You are speaking words I don't like. So it's all my ego. And
Mm.
so that's what the faith has done for me. And I'm not pushing the faith on anybody,
Mm.
but for me, it's shown me you are nothing. If you are nothing, one, without your wife, without your children, without
Mm.
food, without family, without love, without cars, you're nothing, and I'm
Mm.
not. And when I realized that, I started to say I need to get along better in this world.
Mm.
Because so it's the ego, if I can get that across right, that for me is my enemy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sense of our own importance.
Oh,
Um, I some years ago I spent 5 hours in the presence of the Archbishop of Crete, and
oh,
I was giving a talk in St. Petersburg long before the horrors of recent times, and this guy watched the talk and he wanted to talk with me, and he was a I've never met anybody else like him. He was really chilled out. He was a guy in his 80s, little guy. He'd been there, he'd seen it all, and nothing flustered him. He had come to a state of complete calm. And it was wonderful seeing the way, a couple of hundred priests there, and they all revere this guy because, there's him and the patriarch, and then, you know,
yeah,
you're talking with heaven. And he was somebody who would put on an ordinary monk's garb after his, ceremonial day and go out and talk to people at night on the streets to try and help people. But he asked me what I believed, and I said to him, well, I believe in compassion and I try to show it. And I know the meaning of the word humility. And one day I hope to have some.
yeah,
And I think that is the ego problem, isn't it? That we feel that we're important, and that somehow, and with you, that's something that came up as rage.
yeah,
The determination to bend the world to your will until you
yes,
found out that there was something that you made contact with that was a lot bigger than you were, and you weren't going to be
yes.
able to beat up.
No, no,
Mm.
right. That's why I think it might work. And I want to say this. I, of course, am a true believer, but even if what I'm saying is not true and it's a fiction of my head, which I have to always admit because I walk by faith,
Mm.
if it's a fiction, it can still work
Mm.
because you're causing a human being to say, who are you compared to what created you?
Mm.
Even if it's not real, it still works for somebody as egocentric as I was.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, Meister Eckhart, the great mystic, said, "Nothing that can be said about God will be true.
Yeah.
Uh, you
Yeah.
can't wrap this mystery up in words."
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And John, for me, this translated to something good in my estimation because along the way, I watched religious leaders, men, scholars, gurus, and I investigated them. And this propensity served me well to say, you're full of shit. And I never bought any of it because none of it proved to me that it was superior.
mm,
This was when I found, and I read Nietzsche, I read all of it to seek. But the Ubermensch to me is just laughable.
mm,
This idea that Nietzsche brought to the table because that is what makes someone like me thrive,
Mm,
and it's dangerous in my
mm.
estimation. Yeah,
Well,
but
certainly Hitler made something of it.
yes, he certainly did.
Oh,
Right, and that's what guys like me without all the Mein Kampf mindset are doing. And it's prevalent in our world today, and so we're just seeing a disaster in the psyche of people because they think might makes right. I
yeah,
really believed might makes right.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Praise God and pass the ammunition. Um,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
and
the
I think,
evangelical right.
yeah, it's just a complete mess, isn't it?
Horrid.
Yeah, and looking at the predatory people who set up, say, the Pentecostalist movement and the evangelical movement that's come out of it, the charismatic movement, that are
Right
people
with
who,
you.
yeah, that they are simply exploiting people for the most
Yeah.
part, and it, I do, you say something that I think is vital and is the core of what I believe, which is that we are allowing people to assume positions in society who are predatory, who are dangerous. But worse yet, we're learning how to be like them.
That's right.
We're learning to be selfish. We're learning to it's very much a me generation that we're living
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And people are becoming ever more isolated because our lives are being, or our minds, our thinking is being controlled by the
Yes.
advertising messages of our sponsors. And our sponsors, you know, do not care about us at all. They just want to sell
No.
us more product and keep us infantilized so that we won't realize what they're up to. The
Right with
way
you.
that, yeah, I mean, the way that it's spread through politics and the evil people that we see leading the world at the
Yeah.
moment, it's just unbelievable. Whether
Yeah.
it's Xi and Putin on one side, and or whether we're looking at the leaders in the Western world, who we are not going to criticize here because we don't want to upset anybody. But
But it's all the same, isn't it? It's
hmm,
all from the same place.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's justified as being somehow proper to behave in this way. I mean, I'm not a fan of Democrats or Republicans. You can keep them. I'm really, all of the machinations of politics, all of the things that people are doing to try and con us into following them and doing what we're told. Um,
Absolutely.
I don't see much in the way of love involved. I don't see much in the way of compassion involved, and I do see a tremendous amount of conflict, which seems to me completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Um, we only have a short time here, but I really, really want to come back and have a longer and serious conversation, because your transformation, the fact that it is possible for somebody who is on that spectrum towards psychopathy to be redeemed, is what can save the human race. It's only by understanding how you feel and think and approach the world, and having compassion towards that, you know, but restraining that in our culture. It's just become so wild out there, so dangerous.
Yeah.
And the history of humanity is a history of devastation and war on the one hand, and of genius and creation and medical achievement and artistic achievement and architectural achievement on the other hand. And so seeing the, let's say, psychopathic disregard for the environment, which has characterized humanity for so many centuries, and now at this point where politicians are going, yeah, well, it's not my problem. I just need to get re-elected because I'm the
Yeah.
good guy
Yeah.
and I need to get re-elected. Like,
Yeah.
hmm. Oh
Yeah.
dear. So let's wind up so you can get back to work, because
Okay.
um, and we'll arrange to talk again as soon as you can,
Okay.
um, and explore this topic further. I'm tremendously grateful to you,
Yeah.
for the
And
time you've
John,
offered.
I'm very grateful to you. Um, Something that is true. That's not a manufactured gratitude. Somehow my gratitude for things and people has increased since then. It's not perfect, but I'm grateful to you. And I'm grateful to other human beings, which I never was before, through what's happened. So I so look forward to taking advantage of this with you. And thank you so much, my friend.
Great. Well, we'll stop the recording, say goodbye to the audience, and arrange another conversation. So thanks to everybody for sharing time with us, and I'm sure that you're as fascinated by Shawn as I am, because he's a fascinating man. So thanks a lot, Shawn.
Thank you.
Hi, John here. Thanks for watching. We'd appreciate it very much if you would click like, as well as subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Every dollar helps, and we welcome new patrons on Patreon, or you can make a one-off payment with any currency through PayPal. Thanks so much.